Okay, good morning, everybody. Hi. I think we can get started on time. So good morning. My name is Aviv. I'm the director of the International Relations Division here at the Federation of Israeli Chamber of Commerce. And today we're going to talk, we have a very interesting and professional webinar about hiring and employing employees in the UAE. We have done this webinar together with Adecco, which is Adecco Group. It's the second largest recruiting company in the world. It's a Swiss group, one of the Fortune 500, a very, very big company. It has an office both in Israel and the UAE, and we are honored to have some of the UAE team and the Israel team here with us and give us some of their insights. I will introduce them in a second. And the reason that we've done that is because we have seen two things. One, that there is a lot of interest by Israeli companies to relocate some of their companies, or there will be more interest to relocate some of their employees once they get more exposure to the market. And the second reason is that we wanted to understand what other channels to market are there in the UAE. And one of them is in basically hiring local salespeople. Now we know that the Emirates, the actual Emirates within the UAE, it's less than 10% out of the population, and the rest is expats, where the high-paid expats are quite high, and you have more than 200 multinationals in the UAE. You have British and French and Austrian and German and American and Indian, all sorts of people there who are already based in the UAE and has been working in the UAE for quite some time. In this respect, a lot of the times you don't need to invent the wheel. If you want to access a certain market, if you want to start selling, I don't know, hospitals or hotels or any other segment, you can definitely try to recruit those professionals who are already in the market, who has the contacts, who has the knowledge, who have the sales, who've been working in previous companies, and basically work with them in order to get a very fast sales channels, direct sales channels. And today what we're going to do is we're going to understand, okay, how do you do that? And is that an option? How do you do that? And how you can succeed in doing that? Part of the uniqueness of Adecco when they came to us was the fact that they can do that in a very good way that basically saves a lot of time with a very professional manner, and in a way that basically limits your legal binding and all those kind of things. And we're going to hear much more from our expert from Adecco. So that was the context, setting the stage. That was the main context of organizing this day. And we're gonna hear a short presentation about Adecco, and then we can have a lot of Q&A. So that's basically where we're gonna focus on today. And in terms of the Chamber of Commerce, we've been dealing with the UAE, also Bahrain, and also Morocco since the Abraham Accord were signed. We have signed a strategic partnership agreement with the Dubai Chamber of Commerce, the Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce. We're working with other organizations, free trade zones like Dafza and Jafza and Kizma, and also the Ras Al Khaimah. And also with the Dubai FDI, the Dubai Export, and other different organizations. I just want to remind everybody that Expo 2021 is about to begin in October, and it's a great opportunity for Israeli companies to go and experience, not only to experience UAE, but also to experience a global event in a mega scale. I'm sure that the UAE will do it the best way possible. So there's an Israeli pavilion in the expo, so any company who would want to hear more about the Israeli pavilion and knowing about the expo, please let us know. And without further ado, I just want to thank our guest speakers today. So let me just first of all start with the Israeli team. So there's Avshalom and Tzvika. Avshalom Ben Tzur is the country manager of the Adecco Group in Israel. Avshalom, wave your hand, and is basically responsible for the team here, and that's also a great reason of why we chose to do it with the Deco, because they have someone here on the ground, which is it's helpful when you talk in the local language and you can engage. And we have some guest speakers that are sitting at the UAE, and they're from Deco UAE. And I'd like to thank both Vinet Mahar, the Director of Sales of Deco in Middle East, and also Mainek Patal is the Country Manager of Deco. Thank you both for taking the time to organizing the presentation and to be with us today. So I'm going to ask Mr. Patel to take it away from here and continue. So thank you very much, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Ziv. Thank you so much for the welcome and the opportunity to present Deco as a group in Israel we operate, and as well as what we do in Middle East. So quickly, I will take you through the flow of this presentation. Is that what is the UAE job market and the facts? Why work in UAE? Like for employees, what are the growth opportunities? Introduction to the Deco group and worldwide reach we have, because that's very critical to attract the global talent to UAE when we are recruiting. Introduction to Deco Middle East, Deco advantages in this market, as you rightly mentioned, and I'll touch base that to be 100% compliant is very critical in such markets. Advantages for UAE and Israel, and introduction to the Deco group, various brands which we have within the business, which does not only do recruitment, but a lot of other businesses which we support our clients in this. So when we look at UAE, I think unlike the Western countries like say Italy, France, Germany, or US, where they have a temporary worker law, here the law does not differentiate between a temporary worker or a full-time employee. So whoever is an employee is either on the sponsorship of some of the company. If in this case we sponsor the visa and the work permit for all the employees, and they work as a temporary worker for the client. But in the Ministry of Human Resource, they all are the same in terms of employee. They are considered as full-time employee under the Ministry of Human Resource and Emeritization. Now, how do we employ here? That because, as you rightly mentioned, that there is 92% expat population working here. So the visa quota is provided on the basis of office space. As you are mentioning that there are free zones like Davza, Jabza, Dubai Healthcare City and all. So to operate into free zone, you need to have a dedicated license and an office into free zone. And your number of quota or visa which you get is proportionate to the size of the office which you have in the free zones or in the mainland. And Deco, we have all the offices and the licenses which we operate into all the free zones in UAE. When we look at our business in terms of staffing or recruitment, Randstad don't operate here. So we are the largest multinational, and hardly one more multinational company operates here. Otherwise, it's all local player because there is a lot of different licenses, local sponsorship you need to operate into the particular sector of business which we are into. Employment visa, it's typically about for 2 to 3 years, depending on its mainland is 2 years, free zone is 3 years, but it roughly costs around 1,500 euros. This is only the visa cost. And by law, even if an employee wants to resign after 2 months, you cannot recover the visa cost, or you cannot charge the visa cost to an employee. So I think over a period of time, UAE has put a lot of strict governance that there should be no financial dealing with an employee to get jobs, because in past there were a lot of recruitment agents or small-time companies which will go to the country and promise jobs for UAE and charge them the money, which is by law not permissible in UAE. Very mobile pool of talent. See, if in other countries you can have a talent pool in your database, which is there for a longer period of time, but in UAE, the tenure can be 1 year, 2 years. Once the visa are expired, they want to go back to the home country, or they want to go to other country. So it's a fluidic talent pool which keeps on. We need to keep on updating our database because many people come for an experience for 3 years, 2 years, depending on the nature of the job and the situation. And the UAE job markets, as I mentioned, is 90% expat workforce. Hence, a lot of overseas recruitment is required from different countries. And because we operate in 65 odd different countries in the world, we use Adecco's infrastructure to recruit from those countries when it comes to UAE. I think there's a question. Maybe we take it now or at the later stage. I don't know, Z.
We can leave it. I mean, feel free to.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll answer all the questions once we finish the presentation, because many of those answers could be there. Now, why should an employee consider working in UAE? Because it's truly multinational, multicultural, diverse workforce. As you rightly mentioned, you have Germans, Austrian, US, Australians, then Indians, Filipinos. So it's across the world. You have the diversity here. A high employment rate has attracted wide range of workforce, which shares a diverse culture in UAE, benefiting the employers from pool of talent. Zero taxation. So, you know, if employee wants to save, there is a saving opportunity which they can support the families back in their home country. Convenient work visa facilities. So there are a lot of categories of visa which over a period of time government has issued, like you have the professional category, you have freelance visa, you have, and if all the documents are there, issuing visa process is not a very complicated process when it comes to the work permit in UAE. Impressive infrastructure. The quality of living is very good. The most advanced and modern cities where you can really connect the transport facility, the residential complexes which are equipped with all the facilities and safety, and global professional exposure. So in any organization, typically you see that you have at least 15 to 20 different nationalities working. So the learning curve is very different. Companies with higher ranking jobs all over the world. There's a lot of investment going into fintech and IT in the market, along with hospitality and tourism, which is, after oil and gas, the core of the economy for UAE. The further supports variety of industry to set their foot here. Now, if you see a lot of Emirates with like Ras Al Khaimah or Abu Dhabi, they are doing a lot of changes in the way the business, ease of business is there. Fundamentally removing local sponsorships for certain category of business, you know, having freelance visas or giving ESOPs in terms of the free zones. No language barrier. Yes, there are certain government organizations where you need Arabic speaking talent, but otherwise, if a talent knows English, it's the mostly spoken language here, and ability to grow your own business. So country has all the resources, including consumers, market, and technological support to grow the business. A lot of startups come in the DIFC, and this year has been the best in terms of the new registration of companies to support the growth in the local economy. Now, when we talk about some case studies, what we did is that we as a company, we do a lot of recruitments into volumes, like supporting hotels, restaurants, large clients for their needs, and also a specific area into technology. And also we just took 2 case studies. Maybe we have much more to share. That we had a government regulatory firm in UAE where the client was seeking to hire temporary staff in Dubai for HR and business function. What we did is that we sourced 15 IT technology guys within span of 2 weeks, because we have a very active pool of candidate database, plus a lot of candidates visits our website and our offices on a regular basis. And then there was other client where one of the largest bank in Middle East, which required to upscale or invest more into that IT skill people. So what we did is we recruited across the globe almost 25 people, which was the urgent need at that point of time, and ensured that all of them, along with the MOL and the visa process, are landing in Dubai, or there are some which were within the country working on different projects, so that the client gets the ease and the best talent which is required from us. And we give an end-to-end solution, not only recruitment. So we help government and semi-government organization to place high skill talent, and compliance is something which we are a Swiss company, listed into Zurich Stock Exchange. So compliance is the way of life for us. Whatever we do is 100% compliant. So any organization who work with us, And if you see a lot of multinational companies operating here work with a multinational like us, because they're assured that in the entire process, there is no violation of human rights, or there is no bribery or any kind of recruitment process which is not ethical to be followed. And then everybody gets the salary on time, and we follow the labor laws which are required by the law in the local government. Now, if you see our footprint in Middle East is growing. We operate into Saudi, Qatar, UAE, and Egypt. We have a partner, and Israel also. I think we have Adeco's operations. Now, 100,000 plus candidate database we have, almost 200,000 plus followers on our LinkedIn, 6,000 plus placements we do on a yearly basis. And I think this year, because of the surge, because of Expo into hospitality and all, already by June, July, we have placed more than 7,000 people. So I think we see that this is going to be a high demand thing. And still there are flight restrictions, which is stopping us to fulfill all the orders. And we work among all the brand names in the UAE with 250 plus clienteles, 60% of them being multinationals or the large family houses in UAE, like the likes of Majid Al Futtaim or Al Futtaim of the world. And we source from 30 plus countries from an international mobility. So we have international talent mobility centers across the world, which help us to do international mobility, being GDPR compliant in those countries wherever we require talent from whichever part of the world. And so we have 4 core services. One is flexible solution, where for a company which is starting business here, and they don't want to invest too much into the human resource team or to have the hassle of applying for the quota and everything. So we issue the visa and everything is on us. We just invoice the salary plus Adeco's margin. Right from recruitment, every HR aspect is taken care by us, which we call it as a staffing or a temporary staffing as an option. Then we do a lot of professional recruitment. If the size of the company is big and they have their own HR team which can take care of the employment cycle, we only do the recruitment. We do MSP and VMS. This is just for a large clients where they have a lot of suppliers and they don't want to deal with those suppliers. We implement the solutions through MSP or VMS and manage the supplier based on the behalf of the client with SLAs and KPI. And we have a business called LHH, which does career transition, which is outplacement. If because of any reason or redundancy, you don't require talent, we do a lot of counseling and help them to find the job, as well as upskilling and reskilling into leadership skills. So this is something which we do. We have a high branch network. And again, this is quickly the summary of the services which we operate. It's temporary and professional staffing. As I told, Adeco specialized team assist the client in hiring whatever skills they need, barring a few blue collar, because by law you need to provide them accommodation and transportation, which we have not done till now, but depending on the end client, if they want the global standard, we can do that. Payrolling services, that means we issue the visa and we process the salary and everything we do. One of the unique services is the PRO services, that if you are a small or a medium enterprise organization and you hire an employee, typically you need to use a local PRO to go to the embassy to apply for the visa, for helping the employee to do the medical test, then stamping of the visa, then applying for Emirates ID and all. Now in this service, our PRO team, which is a local Emirati talents, they manage this entire process, right from collecting the documents to the end, which is the issuing the visa and ensuring that there is an Emirates ID which has been created, which is like a social security card to work in UAE. Executive search, we do a lot of senior level placements across all our clients into finance, retail, IT, real estate and construction is a very big business for us. So we have specialized consultant which work on executive search, and permanent recruitment is anything from entry level to mid-level volume hiring. We have teams under Adeco who does this, and a lot of volume projects we deliver with the likes of, let's say, EDNOC. We hire 2,000, 3,000 people a year for their petrol station or for their cafe shops and all. So this is our core competency in the market in UAE. Key areas which we support our clients is HR business support, Emiratization, because there is a certain percentage of quota you need to fulfill when you are, if you are not in a free zone, that you need to have 10% of the employee as Emiratis. Banking and finance, IT, telecom, engineering, construction, real estate, as I mentioned. Sales marketing roles, I think our 70% of the employees, we have around 1,200 employees, are actually into sales or retail sales and marketing. Pharma and medical, we do a lot support for the global multinational clients. And food and beverages into hospitality, where we work with some of the large hotel brands to supply chef, waiters, the hospitality staff. And the hotel takes care of the employment because they provide them accommodation and visa from their end. So that's the service we provide them. And then coming to the question that, you know, if a company is setting up in UAE, why Adecco should be the HR solution partner is one, that globally we are the industry expert and one of the global leaders in this business. Our specialized consultant have the in-depth knowledge of the industry and the market. They have professional relationship with a very country's top talent, being long time in the market. And they have all the accesses to the LinkedIn or all the job portals which are required to headhunt the best talent. Then the market knowledge, which is very important in the context of being a very agile talent pool. Global presence, so the service delivery and the SLAs are globally been set and we follow in all the countries. And compliance, which is very important when you are into a service industry which is related to manpower or a labor supply, because there are a lot of penalties if the salaries are not paid, or employee can go to the labor court and complain and all. But in this case, we are 100% compliant and we manage all the legal aspects of the employment from our side. So that's a summary about us. Now, advantages in both in Israel, UAE and Israel, as he was saying that we have our own presence and our Adecco's offices in Israel, and we have our country manager also from Israel on the call. A broad service offering. We can actually have a MSP kind of a model where Adecco Israel is already working with a client who wants to open up in UAE or is in relationship with Israel. So Adecco can internally deal between two countries and giving a single window service to the client based in Israel, because always a local relationship matters and there is a expertise and know-how of the market. Knowledge of local labor laws, employment contracts, mandatory terms in UAE, payrolling, outsourcing, these are all our core of the business, market attention. And we can have a dedicated account management team wherever the client wants, in UAE or Israel, and both the countries can be responsible for the SLAs and the business model which we can arrive at. And about Adecco as a group, we are, as I mentioned, that Swiss company with more than 34,000 employees, putting 1 million plus people on work every day, and revenues of 23.9 billion euro in 2018. Great place to work. We are the 7th best great place to work with 5,100 branches globally and more than 60 plus countries we operate. This is a quick summary of our ecosystem brands. So we have different brands related to human resource services. Adecco as a core does the recruitment and general staffing. Then we have BNC, which is an executive recruitment brand. YOS and Adia are our digital recruitment platform. LHH is a training organization. General Assembly only focuses on technical upskilling and reskilling of IT talent. So we have our own online modules as well as our own academies where we train the employees for the upcoming modules of, let's say, SAP or data or AI, and upskill their needs. Modis is a complete ITO, the IT outsourcing and engineering brand, where we do execute projects, not only give people. Spring again is a professional recruitment brand, and Pontoon, as I mentioned, is the MSP and an RPO brand which we have at a global level. Total global workforce solution. This is just an elaboration of the businesses which we have, which is permanent, temporary, outsourcing, training, and assessment. And these are the business line or the segment which we operate into in terms of IT, engineering, medical, sales and marketing, and finance and legal. We do a lot of support to large hospitals or government in terms of hiring niche doctors or paramedics from other part of the world in this market. Maybe you can. As I mentioned, GA is an acquisition we did 3 years before. It's a purely technical upskilling, reskilling organization, and we train the resources on the future demand of the IT skills. And LHH is a purely soft skill and leadership coaching and outplacement organization. So all these brands are under the brand of Adecco, and Ponton I also already have elaborated is an MSP RPO brand which we have at a global level. So that's a quick summary about what we do and what is the market scenario in UAE. I can see some questions in the chat.
Thank you. Maybe we can start with a few others. And thank you very much for this quick presentation. I think you can unshare it so we can go to we'll just take a few questions and we can continue. I mean, one of the questions that people ask all the time is what are the average time to take a local salesperson, the average time to hire and stuff like that. So how is the process and what's the average time to actually hire a salesperson in the market?
See, I think now, as you see, there's a lot of talent available which is within the country. So if we are hiring somebody who is already in UAE, hiring should take not more than 2 weeks to finalize the candidate, and from there on it takes another 2 weeks to issue the visa and be 100% compliant before he starts work. So anywhere between 2 weeks to 4 weeks is the maximum time to onboard.
I mean, in terms of the visa means if he's already local there and he already has a visa, work permit, stuff like that, there's no need.
So see, what happens is that visa is linked with your employer. So if
okay, gotcha.
I am working with Adecco, but I join another organization, Adecco needs to cancel my visa and the new company has to apply for a new visa.
I understand.
Every time we need to issue a new visa.
And what are another question that we had is, what are the social benefits employees has to give? And how does Adecco address that element? Because there's not going to be employee-employer relationship if hiring through you.
No. So if you're hiring through us, there is no employer-employee relationship. But there are certain costs which we will bill to you, but the liability would be on us. So in terms of social security, there is only 3 things. One is mandatory insurance. You need to provide to everybody health insurance, which starts from basic to a very high level. Second is the end of service benefit, which is called as EOSB here, is that basis the number of days they work in a year, number of years they work. When they resign, there is an encashment which needs to be done of gratuity and the end of service benefit, which is like if you work more than 3 years is 7 days per year, otherwise 14 days after 5 years. And there is no other social security into picture. The only other aspect is that as an employer, every 2 years, you are liable to provide flight tickets back home, depending on the level of the guy. If it is a junior guy, only for self. If a senior person, then for the family, for to and fro from the destination country he comes from. This is mandated by law.
Interesting. I didn't know that. And at the same topic, do you give any specific training for your employee when regarding working with Israel or any other countries when you're?
So what we do is that we design the induction. We have a standard Adecco induction process which goes through for all the employee, but every client has different pattern of working. So we design the module of training basis the client needs. So example, if we are working with, let's say, Nakheel as a brand with all their malls, so they have a different protocol. So when they join, we do a half-day training. Basis the client need, we jointly create the presentation. So if required, we can create a training module specific to Israeli companies or the need of the client, and then train them before they join the organization.
Okay, interesting. We'll take one of the questions that was here by Yossi. Says, how can a small manufacturer who does not have finance to open an independent branch in the UAE find distributors or marketers in the UAE to market its product in the UAE and beyond?
Okay, so I mean, there are two aspects to it. If you don't have a branch, you cannot employ directly anybody. So if you want to have any employee, you will have to use companies like us to employ somebody. And as far as distributors are concerned, there are a lot of distributors which are under the large family-owned companies or an independent distributor, which can help you to distribute your products in UAE. But I think there are some still export or import licenses and certificates which as a company you will have to procure before you send your goods to UAE.
Gotcha. And regarding the branch, Yossi, do you have any office in Israel? So yes, Avshalom is here and we will provide his contact details needed. Najib is asking, I need a connection to education ministry or marketing company. I have a site of education jobs. Okay. Well, that, you can definitely need for that, Najib, you can contact us later and we can try to see if we can help you with contacts. A few other questions that are, if we're already talking about the Israeli branch, so if you can tell us a little bit about the activities of Adecco Israel and what the companies already use, service success stories. I mean, what is basically the linkage between Adecco Israel and Adecco UAE, and how does that will work?
So I will take that. The reason and the benefits are mainly by having us here in Israel, being able to provide the service as is customary and used in Israel. So apparently we will have an MSA, a Master Service Agreement, signed here in Israel, following the local Israeli law, taking advantage of the culture that we are both engaged with, aware. And for anything beyond that, we will be using the internal Adecco networking to communicate and to represent the Israeli prospects in front of United Arab Emirates team, and for that matter, for any other possible team, and to be able to verify that everything is done as smooth as possible.
Okay.
So we will be actually the focal point for all matters, taking into account the know-how that exists, as Mayank presented along the presentation here in Israel and there in United Arab Emirates.
Okay, Mayank, can you tell us a little bit about the estimation of salaries and how much, what are the packages in general? If you're, I know maybe it's a broad question, but maybe you can give us some sort of a range.
I'll tell you now. It's unique here. It depends on three factors. Okay, first is that apart from the salary, what is the benefits you are giving? So some companies give accommodation as a benefit or education as a benefit, but if not, let's say we are talking about a sales guy with 3 to 5 years of experience. The range should be around 8,000 to 10,000 dirham as a salary. If we are talking about ERP solutions or niche IT products, then it's a different situation.
Right.
I'm talking from a general point of view. A lot of customer service is between 4,000 to 5,000 dirham salary. And all the retail outlets where you see people who are promoters, who are standing, are again, retail is different. If you're talking about a brand like Louis Vuitton, they need a different quality of a retail sales executive. But I'm talking overall on a general side would be 4,000 to 6,000. But the likes of Apple or Louis Vuitton, they need a very high quality of resources, which will come with a price. Also depends on the kind of talent from where you want. Okay, so if you need specifically from some countries, it's expensive. If you're talking from Asian talent, it is little different than getting somebody from France, Germany, or Australia or something. Now, if there are certain projects where they need a skill which is only available in that market, then it's expensive to get. And average IT talent, it's anywhere between 20 to 25,000. I'm talking about, let's say, SAP, Java, or an AI guy with 7 to 8 years of experience. But for an employer, sorry.
No, go ahead.
And then apart from the salary, there are other costs, as I mentioned, that you need to take care of the visa, the flight tickets, the insurance. These are all the costs of an employer, not an employee.
And is there a difference between Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, Sharjah in terms of the laws of employment or the salaries?
Salaries, I will say Dubai, Abu Dhabi, not much, because the cost of livings are different. But if you go to Ras Al Khaimah, the salaries would be 20-25% lower because see the 50% of anybody's earning opportunity here is a cost of rentals and education, which are two expensive part. Now, as you go towards Sharjah, the one bedroom in Dubai in a place like Marina will cost you 60,000, 70,000 dirham a year. Sharjah, you can find the same size or a better size in 20-25 dirham. So 1,000 dirham. So depends on the location. Yes, salaries can vary, but what happens is a lot of people stay in Sharjah but travel to Dubai or Abu Dhabi on a daily basis, because the distance is hardly 30-40 kilometers, which takes 40 minutes to reach by road, to save cost. And Ras Al Khaimah, yes, there are cost advantages, and government also is doing a lot of initiative to give discounted visa for a longer period of time, maybe 3 years, to attract more investment into Ras Al Khaimah.
Super interesting. Gotcha. Okay, cool. So if there, we can see if there's any other questions. I don't see that there are. So if there's any other questions, please feel free. If not, what we're going to do is we'll share the contact details of the speakers, both Deco Israel and Deco and with the UAE, and definitely we can, and also the presentation, you can contact them directly. I think for us, it's a very interesting aspect, because a lot of the Israeli companies are B2B companies. And when you want to enter to the market, you feel that you need to kind of invest a lot of time in finding either the distributor or local partner to do that. But if you have already products that are relevant to the market, especially consumer goods or any other aspects, even if it's a B2B, you can definitely work through hiring local talent and just just capitalize on the fact that the UAE is such a special multinational environment, and do that. And I think that what your company is doing, without then doing any hard sales, of course, I'm sure that there's also other competitors in the market, but they're giving us those options. I think that David is asking to elaborate on the recruitment process. What are the Adecco pros and cons versus working with locals for doing the employment? I don't know if you can see the see it on the checkbox.
So if I understand the question right, is that what is an advantage or disadvantage working with Adecco versus a local recruitment company? So see, there are three things which I'll tell you. The first is when you enter UAE and globally, because so many people are expats, so there are hundreds of small agencies which promises jobs. If you see today's newspaper of UAE, there was a WhatsApp scam of providing jobs for Expo, and which was fake. Okay, so you can find a lot of companies which can promise a lot of things, but then they don't have their own recruitment engine. They use agencies into other local countries to hire employee. The advantage, if you ask me, would be they're very economical, but their model of revenue is not only charging the client, but they make money from the candidates. So it's not legally compliant. Second is that we work on a service level agreement. So we don't overpromise. If we say that it's going to be 20 days to hire this position, we'll respect the SLA of 20 days. And if it is difficult, we'll upfront tell you that it's going to take 40 days or 45 days. And third is about also helping you to negotiate and give you the fair amount of salary scale within the market. Okay, so many companies which come new to the market, people can also give an exorbitant pay scale, which is not the reality of the market, because our margins are linked with the salaries offered to the candidates. But that's not what Adecco does. We work on a partnership with our clients, that if you are benefited in a longer period of time, definitely we benefit, and we look for a long-term strategical partnership. So if you see, advantage would be compliance, SLA, and the strict governance and know-how of the market. Only disadvantage I see that yes, we are little expensive than somebody else, because if you want to have everything compliant in this market, you need to invest into a lot of licenses, legal, and I'm sure when you will do business in UAE, you will realize that legal costs are quite high if you have to have a compliant lawyers here. So our cost to serve is little higher, but it comes with the quality of service.
Okay, great, thank you. I think that's it for now. We've covered definitely a lot of range of questions, and I think it's a very interesting topic. And I'd like to thank you very much, Deco, for taking your time. And we'll be sharing this recording with the audience, and also put it on our website and social media so other people can get exposure to it and definitely get in touch with you. I'd like to thank you again. Avshalom from Israel, thank you very much for your work in contact with your branch in UAE, and Mr. Patel and Mr. Mahar. We're definitely looking forward to have you visit Israel. So there's going to be more than 100 weekly flights. You're going to get one of those, I hope.
Yes, yes. And then we will look forward to meet you during Expo. So.
Definitely. We will be there. That's the place to be.
Yeah.
So thank you, and thanks, Shlomit. Thank you. I just want to also indicate Ms. Shlomit Simchon from my team who organized it behind the scenes. So thank you very much, Shlomit, and thank you very much for participating.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.